11-year MLS pro Quincy Amarikwa here, and you're now listening to the Perfect Soccer Podcast, where your host goes one-on-one to get to know your favorite professional soccer players, both on and off the pitch. Because how better to learn what it takes to become a pro soccer player other than directly from pro soccer players? Today's episode is brought to you by PerfectSoccerSkills.com, the #1 and only platform you'll ever need to connect with and learn from pro soccer players. Learn more and enter to win weekly soccer prizes, goals, balls, jerseys, player meet and greets, and more by heading over to PerfectSoccerSkills.com/PSTM to enter to win for free today. With that said, please enjoy today's episode.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Perfect Soccer Podcast. Our special guest today is Jay DeMerit. Jay, how's it going?
What's going on? How are you?
I'm doing good. Appreciate you coming on. Let's just go back in time a little bit. What's your first memory of playing soccer?
Well, I grew up in Green Bay, so I had a different football usually in the back of my yard. But I think the first real soccer memories I have was probably when I was about 7 or 8, and coach liked England, and so he brought together that first Liverpool jersey that said Candy across it, and I didn't like it. I liked it because it said Candy, not because I knew what Liverpool was or anything like that. But I thought that's kind of my first remembrance of soccer on like the world level.
Yeah, for sure. And then I know you grew up. You played multiple sports. Like when was it in like high school? Like when was it like that you took soccer more serious?
It was generally after high school, because I was a 3-sport athlete in high school. I played basketball in the winters and ran track in the spring. So I was a pretty busy athlete, so to speak. In a way, I'm very adamant of the multi-sport background. I like it. I think it was something that we should probably start to reteach again, because of the intangible skills that you get by doing other things. You know, track is 1 versus 1 with a team sport. Basketball's 5. Soccer's 11. And so you just think about even those social environments, communication environments, all those types of things that really, help us with our development as athletes. And I think I was able to be accustomed to all of those growing up. And so I think in the end that served me. But again, that made me not really practice every day on the soccer field till I was 18. And so I had some catching up to do when I got to university. I got one university scholarship offer from my hometown university, UW Green Bay. And then I got a kind of a favor scholarship to coach at UIC, which was in the same conference in Chicago as UW Green Bay, like a small D1 school. My coach from high school knew that coach. He's like, take a chance in this guy. So I got like a $2,000 a year scholarship for my first year in Chicago. But, for me, that was a great step in the right direction.
Yeah, that's crazy. And yeah, I always discuss with all the guys I have on about playing multiple sports, and I'm on your side with that. I think kids should just play multiple sports and not stick to one like immediately, at least, just so like they get a feel. I think it just like all that different stuff like combines to make you better as a teammate, a player, and just in general overall person.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. Then just what was your overall experience at college?
It was great. We were a small D1 school, but we ended up making the NCAA tournament back-to-back seasons. My sophomore and junior year, we made it to the Sweet 16. We were the first ever UIC team to do that, and so we got to play Stanford out at Stanford and kind of play against the big dogs. So that was a good upbringing for me to really kind of. I guess for me, it was kind of where I started to realize that I was a decent player, because you start playing against those types of players, playing in NCAA tournaments and doing pretty well. That's when I first kind of realized, like, oh man, maybe a kid from Wisconsin can do this. Maybe there is a route to professional for me, considering my limited experience. And then all of a sudden, by my senior year, I was honorable mention All-American, so top 50, 60 players within the country. But again, my story goes, I didn't get drafted, I didn't get picked, probably because I wasn't part of the systems, but also because I was last in line. because of my story. And so within that's totally normal. And there's a lot of us that have to stand in line. And I think for me, having the patience to do that, having the ability to be aware of where I was in the line, I think really helped me. I knew what it was like to not get picked, so I didn't take it personally.
Yeah.
And then it was about trying to make the most of what I had. And that was a good athleticism and ability to compete and against anybody. And so I got an opportunity to move to England, leave the States and pack my bags and go try it in a bigger jungle. And I decided that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah. How did you, like, I know you just mentioned about how did you end up in England? Like, why didn't you try out for MLS teams, or I don't know what the USL was like back then, but yeah.
Mainly because my best opportunity was in England. I was playing with a kid from London in Chicago, my last season in Chicago. Mm-hmm. And again, I was right in Chicago. Like these are MLS teams that could have taken me if they wanted me. And I think that showed me that they didn't. And again, that's fine. There were other players to choose from. So I just looked at the opportunities and like, I just graduated from university. I want to kind of get some life experience here. I'll go live in London for a little bit and check it out. And then when I got to London, I saw football culture at its finest. I saw what it's supposed to be. And I was like, I got to stay here. This is something I can't let go. And so then I made it my new mission to stay.
Yeah. Wouldn't you say that's just like bigger in general to play in England than MLS?
Oh yeah. Like, you can't even compare the two cultures. One is just because England is like, I always tell my friends that like, I grew up in Wisconsin, so the big NFL fans, big NFL state. And so try to have them wrap their heads around like what is the Premier League and what English football is like. It's like, I say, imagine if the NFL was all in Wisconsin and there were 96 teams in 4 NFL divisions, all in a relegation promotion, fighting every year to go up or down. And there was 2 Lambeau Fields in Green Bay, and one wore green and the other one wore yellow, and they fought each other in the streets. And their faces are like, what? Like, how is that even possible? How do you have 2 Lambeau Fields in one place? It's as small as Green Bay, but that's what it's like. And then Manchester's only 45 minutes away from Liverpool, and then there's 2 more teams doing the same 40, 50,000 seat stadiums. And it's like that all up and down the country. And it's like, it's such a unique place, and mainly because of the geography, but it's also just because of the culture that's been created for over 150 years.
Yeah, no, for sure. Then, so how did you join the team, the Northwood?
Friends of friends, just in London. I just had my first season for a even lower division team called Southall Town out by the airport. And I was just working my way up, starting at first you go there and you're an American, so they don't really think that you can play. So then I had to sit on the bench and start by the end of 4 or 5 games late. And then after that, find a new team. And so when I came back from Northwood, my coach had moved and he's like, hey, we got this team called Watford. They're in the championship. He's like, we got a preseason friendly against them. Come do preseason with us. And I was like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. And so I went and did preseason with them, played against Watford in a friendly. And they had just come down from the Premier League. So, as the story goes, what happens then is a fire sale. So they got to get all the guys on money out the door because they can't afford them anymore. And then you've got to find new players that can help fill the bill, but for free because you don't really have any money to bring anybody else in. And that was the situation Watford was in. And I was in a position where, I was coming from non-league, so they didn't really have to pay for me. And I was looking for an opportunity. So again, everybody won in that situation and kind of went to Watford and ended up having a 2-week trial, making the team, and then ended up playing almost 30 games my first year. Sean Dyche, who famous coach now, he was playing in front of me, but both the guys in front of me were 33 and 34, so they were towards the end of their careers. And Sean got injured, so he had like a 6-week groin pull, and I kind of came in and took his spot. And then they're like, "Oh, we can get him off the books too." and so he moved on, and then I stayed and I ended up playing a lot of games my first year. I ended up walking out at Anfield. We had them in a Carling Cup semifinal. So it was a 2-leg. So I got to play at Anfield my first ever professional season. So, I had to hit the ground running. I had to kind of have a baptism of fire, so to speak. But, I prepared that for so long. I'd been in the trenches for so long, and I wasn't going to, if somebody was telling me I was good enough, I believed that I was. Mm-hmm. And that's when you kind of got to go in with confidence that you deserve to be there. And that's kind of what I did early on, and just stuck to my guns and knew what I was good at and what not to do out there. Keep it simple, win the ball, give it to somebody else that's better than you. That can keep the ball like that. It was very simple my first couple seasons. I wasn't leading, I wasn't having captaincies or anything like that. It's just like win the ball and give it to one of your teammates that's better on the ball than you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. And then, yeah, overall, you were there for a while, or I'd say half your career. So what was it like, just your experience there at Watford?
I mean, Watford's an incredible club. It's the original family club. A lot of back history with Elton John and some unique stories there. And it's not the biggest club, but it's in Northwest London. So I got to live in London for 7 years, almost 8 if you consider the non-league years as playing. But London as a footballer is incredible. The game drives the place, and so I think just being a part of that, and then learning the family and community elements of Watford and really understanding what that's like and empathizing with that, because I grew up in Green Bay where community and sports is number one, and so I kind of knew what that felt like, and so that helped me become a better pro and eventually a better captain for the club, because it was kind of very similar community vibes, and I think that for me as someone who grew up in that environment really helped me again hit the ground running when I got to Watford.
Yeah, no, for sure. And then 2007, you started playing for the USA national team. So how did that all come about?
Well, I'm probably the only player in the U.S. history that's played in the Premier League before he gets a national team call up. But that's kind of what happened to me. As anyone knows, I kind of came through the back door through our playoff final, scoring the goal in that game, and then the next year playing in the Premier League as an unknown American, that walked over to England. It was kind of this crazy scenario, but then all of a sudden Bob Bradley starts to call, and he's like, "Dude, I remember your name from Chicago, but like, how'd you get here?" But they're very much appreciative of the journey and saying, "Listen, we can see that you've improved a lot, and we'd love to get you in." And so every footballer dreams of the first call up, and that's what happens. The manager calls you, and he usually gives you some kind of compliment or says, "Hey, we've been watching you. What do you think about getting a call up for your first national team appearance?" And so as any footballer will say, that's the ultimate. That's what you want. You want to play for your country. There's no bigger honor in this sport. And so to get that first call up at 27 was a big thing. And again, I kept the same mentality. And the good thing is that because I had Premier League experience, because I was at the time now by my third season, I was captain of the club at Watford. And so I was able to kind of walk into the national team maybe with a little bit more confidence, I guess, more than most. And I was playing with and against Carlos and Timmy and all those guys. And so I knew them, I hung out with them. So I was like sitting at their table in my first camp, which is kind of crazy. Like that doesn't happen either. And so I just kind of became this anomaly of the story. And again, very proud of my path. But, playing for the national team is really when it starts to get really good and really honorable. And for me, it was the next step. And it was like, I really want to play now. And so I had 3.5 years to kind of get to a World Cup and hopefully play in that, which I was eventually able to do as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've interviewed over like 80 soccer players now, and this is like everyone's obviously story is unique and stuff, but like this is pretty crazy. How you went, like, I don't know, it almost doesn't all add up, but it's awesome.
Yeah, and that's what in 2011 after the World Cup, my story got turned into a documentary called Rise and Shine. We use that now as a tool because the guys that made it, they're like, dude, they called me up before the World Cup, and they're like, bro, if you make it to the World Cup and you play in a World Cup, like that's the craziest story ever. You know what I mean? And so I didn't really think about it because again, I don't know. I just felt like I was doing what I was capable of. I didn't think it was a big deal. But then if you think of that, think about all the kids out there that are 19 and they get passed over by a college, or if they're 21 and they're giving up the game, they're good at college players, but they're like, I didn't get picked. You know what I mean? Whatever. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then they'll just be angry at the game forever. Like I was opposite of that. And so I think having a tool, and that's kind of what they convinced me. It was like, no, it's like how you got there is really where the bones of the story is. The rest of the stuff is great icing on the cake, but think of all the people that we can help just by sharing a story. And so I think that for me was kind of the most unique part of my journey. And I think having that uniqueness is always been something that you've been proud of, but because of the journey, it actually keeps you humble.
Yeah, no, for sure. And you were like 27 or 28. So that's like super rare because like, obviously usually people are starting 15, 16, 17, 18 at the national team. Yeah. And then like, yeah, what was that feeling like to just put on the national jersey in the World Cup?
I mean, it's the ultimate honor. I'll remember it's burned into my memory, just my hand on my heart, US, England, then our national anthem comes on. That's when the world is watching. we always talk about the pressure of the eyeballs. Like, what's that like with the pressure of the eyeballs? And there's no other pressure of the eyeballs like a World Cup, you know. And like you got billions of people that are watching. It's the ultimate honor, but it's the ultimate stage. And I think, you know, to be able to get to that moment with the journey that I did and have it the way that it ended up was, you know, it's a dream come true, and it's something that you know no one can ever take away from you.
Yeah, no, definitely. All right, then how did this all happen that you became the first player to sign with Vancouver Whitecaps?
That the World Cup was finished and I was a free agent. I knew I was going to leave Watford, but I didn't know where I wanted to go. And so I had a couple of options to stay in Europe. But then I just had this thing in the back of my head because I knew I had been there for 7.5 years, mainly by myself, you know, and you want to enjoy your career with your families and your friends and stuff. And don't get me wrong, my family would come and my friends would come, but you know, I was basically over there by myself for a very long time. And then I was kind of getting to the twilight of my career, I would say the prime at 30, 31. And I was like, do I want to be the 34-year-old, 35-year-old that comes back to the MLS? You know what I mean? Like most. And then everyone's like, oh, he's an old dude. Like he's just coming back to the MLS, retirement league, whatever. And then all of a sudden I got hit with this kind of leadership role too, where it was like, okay, Vancouver's coming in to the league. It's an expansion franchise. You get to be the first signing and captain of that franchise. Like that's a super unique leadership opportunity in sports. You know, to be a part of something from the start is almost, you know, it almost doesn't exist in a modern day sporting world because all the teams have existed for so long. And so, you know, all those types of things really started to weigh up on my decision and just going, okay, well, do I want anything more out of England? I kind of done everything I wanted to do there. And then I was like, I don't want to come back old. And so I thought, you know, at 30, 31 in the prime of my career, go be the first signing and captain of a great franchise in a great city. That's not a bad idea. And so that's kind of what kind of eventually led me to, I don't think it helped my national team ability. I think Bob kind of didn't really like that I came back to the MLS. He thought I should have continued to challenge myself in Europe. Which, you know, again, he's got a point, but again, it was my journey and it was something I think I wanted to fill that gap that I didn't have in my career. Cause I moved to England at 23 and I never got to have my friends and family or go to Chicago and see all my boys there, or like go to LA and see some family, or, you know, It's the fun part about MLS is that you get to go to all these amazing cities and then your friends that live there or family that live there get to come and watch and enjoy the experience and enjoy that day in the stadium with you. And I think, you know, I wanted that in a time where I could have a great opportunity to do that and show that. And the MLS provided me that.
Yeah, no, it must have been an awesome feeling too, just not getting drafted and then a brand new team wanting you to be the first player to sign with the team.
Yeah, you know, humble pie is also it's a fun time to be on the other side of that too. Right? Like, okay, cool. Yeah. Remember me?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Enjoy learning what it takes to become a better player from professional soccer players? Well, how would you like to work with professional players one-on-one? Now you can with Be Pro by Perfect Soccer. Head over to perfectsoccerskills.com/BEPRO to apply to work with our network of pro players today.
And then, are you ready? Are you ready for the Quincy questions? You're gonna have to think deep about these.
Okay, yeah, let's rock and roll.
All right, what's the most important skill or quality you feel made you successful as a pro player?
I think it was my mentality. I think it was a mentality on two levels. One was the ability to take on challenges and not think of them as adversities, but think of them as like part of the process. Because I went to design school and I have a degree in design, that's kind of what design teaches you. It's like you think of how to design something, then you like change the edges and then you try it out. And if you like it, you change, then you can change the color. And it's like, you don't really take those decisions personally. You just, if it makes sense, do it. And I think I really adopted that in my journey, and I was able to take on those adversities because of that mindset and my mentality to like really take on challenges and be like, no, this is part of the process. What button can I change, or what can I do to make this better? Instead of saying like, oh, I didn't make it, or this coach doesn't like me, what a jerk. You know what I mean? Like I'm blaming everybody else. And I think a lot of players fall into that trap. And then once I made it pro, I think that mentality of me just out on the soccer field to be relentless. I think that's a mentality. I think defending is a mentality first position. if you don't want to defend and be a dog out there, you're not going to be that good of a defender. And I think that's a mentality first concept. And when your body and your physicality and your aggressiveness can follow that physically, great. But the core value of a defender, in my opinion, is the mentality to go out there and compete, and the mentality to go out there and disrupt. And that's a quality that I had. I think that really served me, especially when you play against the big players, because you got to have that. Otherwise, they're just going to wipe the floor with you, because the reputation will beat you before the whistle even starts.
Yeah, no, definitely. What's the biggest mistake you think pro players are making?
I don't think they're enjoying it as much as they should. I think that there's so much you can get as a professional, from ways you can integrate into your community to cool things you get to do as a pro, or invites you get to social events, or car driving around a track, or the sponsors that have these great things to do. And I don't know. I just feel like we live in a world where everything's so protected now, and everyone wants to stay in their houses because of fear of social media, or being seen at a place, or being criticized. And I think players need to enjoy their careers more, because they only last for so long. And I look back on my career and say I enjoyed every second of it, but you're never going to get those days back when it's done. You're going to go off and do something else. You're either going to be a coach, or you're going to leave the profession altogether, and you're going to do something else. And you're going to go, damn, I wish I would have enjoyed those days a little bit more. I wish I would have made a little bit more out of that day, or that opportunity, or that sponsor night, or whatever I got to do, or that kid at the hospital. When you're a pro, you get to enjoy all those moments, and you should enjoy all those moments. And I think pros nowadays are kind of sit on their hands a little bit and don't try to put themselves out there. And I think that's a mistake. And I think you should enjoy every second in every direction.
Yeah. I think one of the lamest things is when like the critics and the media and the fans like catch people outside, or like doing like just going out somewhere, and they're like, oh, shouldn't they be in the gym or something? I'm just like,
yeah, because if they lost,
they could have a good or bad game if they went to that restaurant or not. Like,
exactly. And those are things you can't control, and again, like, don't go out and get wasted after you get beat 4-0. Like, again, like that's smart. Don't do that. But like, go to a restaurant on a Tuesday and with your boys and have a good time. If you got a Wednesday off, you know what I mean? Like, this is the type of thing. Or just, if the fans are there, go up there and buy their meals and be like, yo, sorry about that 4-0. I know you guys are fans because you got your jersey on. Then all of a sudden they're not pissing and moaning on social media. They're actually going, damn, we got a 4 loss, and look at this guy buying our meals. Thank you. Like, that's community at its key. And, these are the types of things you can stand in front of. And I think that there needs to be more of that.
Yeah, definitely. What advice would you give to a young player?
I think my best advice is always to redefine what you think hard is, because especially for young people, and I work in teenagers, I have leadership programs, which is what I do now post-career. And I work with teenagers all day long. And what I think is hard is very different from what they think is hard. And I think for the next generation, for them to be successful in any way, they have to start to redefine what hard is.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's just like, setting your goals and achieving them, and setting a new goal, setting a new goal, setting a new goal.
Yeah, and it's also just like, taking things on the chin, understanding that failures are part of the process. Doing things out of your comfort zone is going to serve you, not hurt you. Taking criticism is valuable. Not taking things personally is valuable. This whole idea of comparing yourself to others is not very, very good to your journey. Like, these are all things that have been taught through a lot of the things like social media and just us having to not be able to say much as coaches, or not being able to criticize in a way that's truthful, because we have to try to take care of a lot of the things that may hurt their mental health. But, I believe that mental health is something that you can train too. And when you teach mental performance, you're going to want criticism. You want feedback. You want these things that are going to make you better. But instead we're going, oh, don't say that. Don't say that. You can't say that to that person. And it's like, oh, okay, then I'll sit over here and not say it. And then I'll create resentment. And then that person will sit there, and then the kid won't even know. And the kid will just sit there in this environment thinking that they know everything and that they're the best player in the world. Meanwhile, none of it's actually true.
Yeah.
And then they got future mental health problems later, because guess what? That thing that they were so good at, that everyone coddled them in and told them how great they were and all whatever, got taken away because 1% gets to make it. Guess what? And then what happens? And then that kid goes, oh, I'm mad at you, parent. And the parent goes, well, I'm mad at you, kid. I just paid $3,000 a year for you to fail. And all of a sudden, here we are. And everyone's got mental health issues and no one's happy. Meanwhile, we're trying to support kids in youth development saying, go be a soccer player. Yeah, right. You know what I mean? It's just not working. So we got to change that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I sponsored like a little league, a couple little league teams, and I went to one of the games and it was T-ball. And at the end of the game, the kid asked, was like, "Oh, what's the score? Or who won?" And he was like, "Oh, it was 5-5. All the games ended in tie." And I was like, "No." I was like, "That's the start of a problem right there, where they got to win and lose."
Well, no, 100%. And again, I'm all for participation. This is not a conversation about participation or participation ribbons. Give them to them, but give a winner's medal too. You know what I mean? Because that's what victory is. And again, dealing with loss, dealing with adversity is actually more prevalent than dealing with wins. So, if we don't teach kids how to lose, if we don't teach kids that losing is part of the process, or that getting critiqued about a performance or saying, could have I done this better, is actually better for them. Only then are we going to start to shift some of the mental health issues that are going on in our young people these days.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I was just like, in my head, I was like, if the kid is old enough to ask that question, then they could take the win or the loss.
That's right. That's right.
Why are you passionate about soccer?
Well, I just think the culture of the game is unlike anything else. And I think I learned that in England, this ability to be a part of something that is much bigger than you as a player really helped me fall in love with the game and understand the different parts of it and understand the different cultures of it. And I think, once you fall in love with that for whatever reason, and I always say this because my son's just starting to like the game now and he's 8. And I'm like, dude, you got to fall in love with the game your own way, because the way I fell in love with the game is going to be very different than you, or maybe not, but probably. And so I think, creating a love for the game through the culture. Why do you come to the stadium? What kind of players do you support? What kind of player do you want to be? What kind of championships can you win? What kind of ways you can help? Like there's so many different facets of what soccer and can do for a community. And I think, that's why I'm so passionate about it, because even post-career, there's so many ways you can stay involved in the game. You can come on podcasts and share your story. You can mentor young players. You can work for clubs. You can coach. You can do all sorts of different ways, or you can just put on your scarf and go be a fan and chant for 93 minutes too, and drink beers with your buddies. Like that's awesome as well. So it's like, again, the culture of the game runs so deep. And I think that's truly what keeps my passion moving.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I got a few more.
Not to mention Sneaky Fox, which is again Quincy, where I actually be a teammate with Quincy, not elbow him in the face. Well, he was trying to elbow me in the face. Was Sneaky Fox, and that reinvigorated my passion for the game. I had to sit around with some pros and really compete again, and really for a shared collective. Those locker room vibes are what you miss most. And I think, Sneaky Fox, Quincy, and all the boys that were able to really bring that, and we'll bring that again this year for TST, really helped reignite the passion. And I think, that's the fun part. You can keep getting reignited. I put the ball away for a bit when I retired. I had a son. I do a lot of things off the ball. And then all of a sudden, I go to a game. I'm like, oh yeah, here it is. That's it. That's the passion I was looking for. And so again, I think that the game just continues to remind you that in so many ways.
Yeah, no, for sure. We're going to touch on that in a minute, but let me get through these last two questions about that. These could be soccer or life related, however you want to answer it. What is something that most people think is true that you believe isn't?
That youth academies are the way forward.
All right. I like that. What is something you would move forward with if you weren't scared of what would happen if things didn't go well?
I mean, I go to music festivals a lot. So I'd probably be like a famous DJ or something, trying to work my way into the stage on DJ or something.
All right. That's cool. All right. Going back to Sneaky Fox. So tell me how that came about for you, like how you got the call maybe from Mike McGee or how you got involved in it.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I've known Mike for years, but Mike was looking for some dogs out there, ex-players that are like our mentality, I guess. And so he called me and was like, do you want to play? And I hadn't played in 6 years. And I ruptured my Achilles, had a second rupture in my peroneal in the same left leg and the left foot. And so I don't play much anymore. I can't really play for long periods of time. But he's like, dude, it's 40-minute games. It's 20-minute halves. Like, you can roll subs. I'm like, ooh, okay. This could be interesting. And so then I started to train, and I got to the point where I could play in some games, but I realized that if I played 5 games in 4 days, I would be done. Yeah. Like, there would be no way. Like, I can't even get through a men's league game without getting super sore or trying to feel like I'm going to break down. And so even they're 40 minutes, but I got to play 2 in a day and the next day and the next day. I just had to take an ego check and be like, I want to stay involved. I know Mike always was like, I just want you to come in and I'd be with the guys too, because that's just one of my kind of locker room skills is just leadership and those types of teamwork types of vibes. And so he's like, I just want you to come anyway. And so then I moved into that role very quickly, and kind of motivation officer was my actual my job title. But but then I moved into that, and we had a great group, and really just came together as a bunch of men, really enjoying the game and really challenging each other and having a go with each other. And I think it was a special time for all of us, because a lot of guys had just retired or been in the recent years. Yeah. And it was just nice to get that ball back and play in that. But then locker room, environments, and then just performance and a high performance like mentality that all these guys that we chose have and had throughout their many year careers. And being in that all-star locker room with a bunch of degenerates is also super fun.
Yeah. No, it was awesome too. I was watching every game, and like me and Quincy, we had no idea what to expect at first, because like Twitter pages, I feel like, just the social pages were like off, and then all of a sudden, like once a tournament, it was just like on. And then like even like watching your guys' team, it was like the commentators at first were like, oh, cool, whatever, like this team. Then like day 2 came around, they were like, oh, they're like the favorite out of no, and I was like, all right, you guys were kind of like downplaying them the day before, but all right. And then like I already knew, because I already saw the lineup and all the like former pros and all that, and just looking at the other rosters. And then it was a cool ride, and just seeing like everyone, like you said, like just everyone come together like in that short period of time. I knew like everyone kind of might have known each other, not like personally, but like known of each other and things like that. But yeah, it was cool to see. And then I saw you fired up a lot on the sidelines.
Oh yeah, well, it doesn't take much to fire me up, but I know, especially when I'm in that role to pump guys up. I'm there to pump some tires, to make sure that guys are motivated and having a good time out there. And that's the vibe that I bring as well. And so that's what we do, and that's the vibe with Sneaky Fox. And so we're looking forward to this season, or not this season, this year, because we'll do it all over again. It's interesting, and Mike's got problems now because there's a bunch of guys that want to play.
Yeah.
And so he's like, oh, this is where GMs get this issue. We're like, all these good players, I only got 18 spots.
Yeah. That's dope.
But I'm more like on the art side. So I help design the jerseys with this company, O'Neill's, which I work with.
So we design those are dope. Those are dope.
Yeah, and so we design them by scratch, and so we're already starting to look at the jersey design for this year and do some cool things around the merch and all that kind of fun stuff, which again, my art background, I just love doing this kind of stuff too, so that's another way I can stay involved. And again, just a bunch of good dudes having a good time, and I think that's what the Sneaky Five vibe's all about.
I want to see some neon orange ones.
Oh, it's funny you say that. Our third kit's looking to be neon. I don't know if we're going to put neon orange in it though, but we might. But we look out for the neon jersey because it's coming.
All right, cool. All right, you ready for some fun questions?
Let's do it.
All right, is it soccer or football?
Well, again, I learned the culture of the game in England, so I got to say football.
All right, Messi or Ronaldo?
Messi.
Why?
For all the reasons. One, he's over the years he has been more consistent. He has won a World Cup. I'm a team guy, and I just see him more of a teamwork, team environment personality within him. And I think that's the reason why they won a World Cup, and why Ronaldo didn't, and ended up walking by himself while his team was celebrating with the fans, by himself across the field to the locker room all alone. And for me, that says everything.
Gotcha. All right, last one. Who would you want to do a jersey exchange with that you've never done before?
Messi.
Right,
for sure. I got to play against him 3 times, but I missed his jersey every time. I wasn't quick enough.
Actually, another last one for real. What have you seen? Like, how have you seen like the impact so far that Messi's brought to like the MLS, and what do you think in the future it's going to bring? It's
funny. I was talking about this the other day because it's the first time that like my aunts and uncles, since David Beckham came, that they're talking about it. And I'm like, oh, well, okay, I get this. This is just another wave. And I think Messi starts the second wave of MLS, just like Beckham kind of started the first wave. Well, it would have been the second wave of the start of the conception of the league, but like really David really put a whole nother level on it. And so I think this is happening again. I think there's better teams. I think there's better stadiums. I think there's a much better culture than there was in the Beckham days. And I think that's exciting because, we're just getting started in this country. And I think that's great, not only for our national team, but it's great for our fans because, again, this is a cultural game. built around community and the people in the stands. And I think that, America is really just starting to get that now and really starting to understand that even in a small town with 5,000 seat stadium, they can rock that thing. They can do pickle races. They can do whatever they want to make it fun and interesting. But that's culture. That's culture of football or soccer in here. And it's like, we're just tapping into that now. So it's exciting times.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Jay. Well, I appreciate you coming on, and could you let the listeners know where they can follow you on social media?
Yeah, my Twitter and Instagram is D6Merit, and my organizations are Rise and Shine. You can find the movie on YouTube, Rise and Shine, and then also our mentorship programs. We mentor young players. We mentor young individuals all across the board through our programs at Rise and Shine, and that's at RXS Mentorship.
Quincy Amarikwa here, and thanks again for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to share it with someone you feel will get some value from it. And if you could take a moment to leave a review of our podcast wherever you're listening and let us know who you'd like us to interview next, we'll get working on that right away. You can listen to this full episode and more at perfectsoccerskills.com/radio. That's perfectsoccerskills.com/RADIO. You can also enter to win free weekly soccer prizes, goals, balls, jerseys, player meet and greets, and more by heading over to perfectsoccerskills.com/PSTM to enter to win for free today.